Dear child of God, you're here because something feels quiet. Not peaceful. Quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you question whether heaven is still listening. The kind of silence that makes you wonder if God stepped back when life got heavy. Let me tell you something with clarity and authority. God has not moved. Not an inch. His presence is not emotional. It is covenantal. It is not based on how strong you feel this week. It is anchored in who He is. And today we're going deeper than motivation. We're going into revelation. Because if you misunderstand God's presence, you will misinterpret your entire season. Some of you feel spiritually dry. Some of you feel tired in your marriage. Some of you are carrying responsibility without visible support. And the dangerous thought creeping in is this: maybe God pulled away. No. Hebrews 13 verse 5 says, I will never leave thee, nor forsake thee. Never is not poetic language. Never is a legal declaration. And before we go any further, if you know this kind of teaching feeds your spirit, subscribe right now. Join this community, because we don't do surface-level encouragement here. We build foundations. If this message strengthens you, consider using super thanks to support this work. It helps us keep producing teachings that bring healing and clarity. Stay with me until the end. I'm going to give you 7 strategic truths that will change how you interpret silence forever. By the end of this, you will stop questioning whether God is near. You will start walking like He is. Let's go deep. Number 1. Feelings are indicators, not authorities. One of the greatest emotional mistakes we make is treating feelings like verdicts. You feel distant, so you conclude God is distant. You feel alone, so you conclude heaven is silent. But feelings fluctuate with sleep, stress, hormones, pressure, and disappointment. God does not. Especially for many women listening, emotions are powerful and intuitive. They are a gift, but they are not rulers. Scripture never tells you to walk by feelings. It says in 2 Corinthians 5 verse 7 that we walk by faith, not by sight. And faith is not denial. Faith is alignment with truth over sensation. If God's presence depended on your emotional state, it would be unstable. But His presence is rooted in His character. And His character does not shift. You can feel anxious and still be held. You can feel confused and still be guided. You can feel nothing and still be surrounded. Love works the same way. In a mature marriage, love is not proven by butterflies every morning. It is proven by consistency. God's love is not adrenaline. It is covenant. When you understand that, you stop panicking every time your emotions dip. You stop interpreting temporary dryness as permanent abandonment. You learn emotional maturity. And emotional maturity is power. Number 2. Silence is not absence. Some of the strongest relationships you have are not loud. They are steady. God does not always shout reassurance. Sometimes He strengthens you through quiet support. Psalm 46 verse 10 says, Be still, and know that I am God. Stillness is not punishment. It is positioning. Silence forces depth. It reveals what you actually believe. If every prayer was answered instantly, you would grow addicted to results instead of relationship. Silence develops trust. And trust is intimacy. For those who have experienced abandonment in relationships, silence can feel triggering. Can feel like someone pulling away. But God is not a wounded human. He is not emotionally reactive. He is intentional. When heaven is quiet, it is not because you've been rejected. It is because you are being rooted. Roots grow in darkness. Strength forms in stillness. Silence is not God leaving. It is God building. Number 3. God's presence is relational, not transactional. Let's go deeper. A transaction says, if you perform, you receive. A relationship says, you belong, therefore you remain. Many people approach God with subtle anxiety. If I pray enough, He'll stay close. If I fast enough, He'll answer. If I obey perfectly, He'll protect me. That mindset creates pressure, not intimacy. And pressure suffocates love. Real love is not maintained by constant performance. It is secured by covenant. When Jesus went to the cross, He did not sign a temporary agreement. He established an eternal bond. Your worst day does not cancel what his blood secured. Some of you, especially women who have carried emotional responsibility in relationships, have learned to overperform to avoid rejection. You anticipate needs. You overgive. You overextend. You try to keep everyone pleased so no one leaves. And without realizing it, you bring that same fear into your relationship with God. You think if you're not spiritually strong enough, he'll step back. No. God is not evaluating whether you deserve proximity. He chose proximity. John 15 says, "Abide in me." Abide means remain, not impress, not compete. Remain. That means when you are tired, you remain. When you are unsure, you remain. When your prayers feel small, you remain. Relationship with God is sustained by his faithfulness, not your perfection. That truth will free you from spiritual exhaustion. You don't wake up trying to earn oxygen. You breathe because it's available. In the same way, you don't wake up trying to earn God's nearness. You live from it. And when you finally understand that, love becomes secure. Number 4. Spiritual growth changes how presence feels. When you first encountered God, everything may have felt intense. Tears came easily. Worship felt overwhelming. Prayers felt immediate. There was a strong emotional current. But growth shifts the texture of your experience. In the beginning, God often makes his presence obvious because you are learning trust. Just like a parent holds a toddler's hand tightly while they learn to walk. But as the child grows, the grip loosens. Not because the parent is distant, because the child is stronger. Some of you think you've lost something because you don't feel what you used to feel. But what if you didn't lose presence? What if you gained stability? Maturity feels quieter than passion. Early love is fireworks. Mature love is foundation. Fireworks are loud and emotional. Foundation is steady and secure. If God kept you dependent on constant emotional surges, you would never develop spiritual endurance. And endurance is what carries you through real life. James 1 talks about trials producing perseverance. Perseverance is not dramatic. It is consistent. You may not cry in worship the way you once did. You may not feel chills every time you pray. But you are stronger. You are wiser. You are more grounded. Depth often feels calm. The ocean's surface moves wildly. The depths remain steady. You are not losing God. You are going deeper with him. And depth does not always shout. Sometimes it simply stands unshaken. Number 5. You are supported beneath the surface. Most of what keeps you alive is invisible. Your heart is beating right now without your permission. Your lungs are expanding without your instruction. Your cells are repairing without your awareness. Support does not need your constant attention to function. Neither does God's presence. Some of you survived seasons that should have emotionally crushed you. You carried grief and still showed up. You endured betrayal and still loved again. You walked through uncertainty and did not completely fall apart. That strength did not come from nowhere. Came from sustaining grace. Isaiah 41 verse 10 says, "Fear thou not, for I am with thee. I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness." Uphold means to hold up from underneath. Not always in front of you, not always loudly around you, but beneath you. There are moments when God does not remove pressure. He reinforces you under it. And reinforcement feels different than rescue. Rescue feels dramatic. Reinforcement feels steady. Many of you wanted God to remove the weight. Instead, he strengthened your back. You wanted him to silence the storm. Instead, he stabilized your footing. That is not absence. That is empowerment. When you look back at the hardest chapter of your life, you will see something clearly. You did not collapse the way you thought you would. You bent. You cried. You questioned. But you are still here. Still believing. Still breathing. Still standing. That is evidence. God's presence is not always displayed in visible miracles. Sometimes it is revealed in sustained resilience. And resilience is proof you were never alone. Number 6. Your questions do not push God away. Many people quietly fear that doubt creates distance. They think if they admit confusion, frustration, or disappointment, they will weaken their connection with God. But Scripture shows the opposite. God does not withdraw from honest hearts. He responds to them. Look at the Psalms. David questioned. Jeremiah wept. Habakkuk asked God why injustice was allowed to continue. Their honesty was not punished. It was preserved. God included their raw prayers in Scripture. That alone tells you something powerful. He is not intimidated by your emotions. Some of you are carrying unspoken disappointment. You prayed for healing. You prayed for restoration. You prayed for clarity. And the outcome did not unfold the way you hoped. So now you hesitate to speak freely with God. You filter your prayers. You tone down your honesty. But intimacy cannot grow where authenticity is restricted. A real relationship requires truth. God already knows your thoughts before you form them. Psalm 139 says He understands your thoughts afar off. So silence does not protect Him. It only isolates you. When you bring your real questions to God, you are not showing weak faith. You are practicing mature faith. Mature faith does not pretend. It trusts enough to be honest. And here is what you must understand clearly. God's presence is not sustained by your certainty. It is sustained by His commitment. You are allowed to wrestle. You are allowed to process. You are allowed to not understand everything. None of that threatens His nearness. If anything, your willingness to stay engaged, even with questions, is proof that the relationship is alive. Number 7. God is closer than your fear. Fear has a voice. It speaks quickly. It assumes the worst. It fills in silence with negative conclusions. When prayers feel delayed, fear says, "You've been forgotten." When life feels uncertain, fear says, "You're on your own." But fear is not revelation. It is emotion without full information. 1 John 4 verse 18 says, "Perfect love casteth out fear." That means fear cannot survive where love is understood correctly. The problem is not that God is distant. The problem is that fear is loud. And if you don't challenge it with truth, it will narrate your entire season. Many of you have experienced relationships where distance meant rejection. So when you don't feel constant reassurance, your nervous system reacts, prepares for abandonment. But God is not a human pattern. He does not fluctuate with mood. He does not disappear when things become inconvenient. Deuteronomy 31 verse 6 says, "He will not fail thee, nor forsake thee." That is not symbolic language. It is a promise tied to His nature. Fear tells you to brace yourself. Faith tells you to anchor yourself. There is a difference. Bracing assumes impact. Anchoring assumes stability. Right now, you are not standing on uncertainty. You are standing on a covenant. Even if your emotions feel unsettled. Even if your circumstances feel unstable. God's nearness is not measured by intensity. It is secured by identity. He is Emmanuel, God with us, not sometimes, not conditionally, with us. And once that truth becomes louder than your fear, peace follows. You are not alone. God has not left. He is not distant. Even when your emotions fluctuate, even when your circumstances shift, even when your prayers feel unanswered, His presence remains steady. His love remains unwavering. His faithfulness remains unshakable. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to perform for it. You don't have to understand it fully. You simply need to trust it. Let your faith anchor you. Let His word remind you. Let His love remind your heart. Every moment you have felt alone, every moment you have doubted, every season of silence, God was there. You were never abandoned. You were never left to struggle without support. You were always carried, even when you didn't notice. So walk forward with confidence. Move through your day knowing the one who holds you is closer than you realize. And if this teaching encouraged you, if it reminded you of God's nearness, subscribe now and click the bell so you never miss a message that will strengthen your spirit. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Use super thanks if you feel led to support this work, so we can continue producing scripture-based, life-changing teachings for men and women seeking clarity, healing, and growth. Remember this, God is still right there, even if you don't feel it, and His presence is enough. You are enough. You are loved. Always.